welcome to another episode of Matt Talks Back. I'm Matt Porteous, and we're back again. I know, we were off for a couple of months. Pandemic happened. Things were unsure, so we took a little bit of time off, but now we're back, and we have another great guest for you today. I'd like to welcome to the show Brian Skakun, local city councillor and longtime resident as well. Brian, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon to you and to your viewers.
Yeah, you betcha. Now, actually, man, I've known you and your family for a very long time. I started in radio back in 1997 over at the Jim Pattison Broadcast Group. And at that time, your mom was actually the finance manager there and actually the person that was in charge of slapping me on the wrist. Signing my paychecks and slapping me on the wrist when I was young and loud and doing things that young, loud dudes like me did. So, I knew your mom for a very long time before I met you. So, man, we've got quite the history.
For sure.
Yeah. Now, so I just kind of wanted to find out a little bit about you. You've been in Prince George for a long time. You know what's happened in this area. You've got all the stories. Plus, you've been in city council for, I think you're the longest serving member now, too. So you kind of have a different perspective on the area than a lot of people have. First of all, when did your love affair with Prince George actually start? Were you born here?
No, I moved here when I was 5 from Edmonton. My dad used to drive for a Greyhound bus. And he was stationed out of the old building that the Italian restaurant was in.
Right.
So he got a transfer. So, I've been here since 5 years old.
Wow. So what year was that?
1969.
Wow, 1969. Okay, well, Prince George was kind of a bit of a boom town back then. There was a lot of people moving from Alberta, a lot of people moving from Saskatchewan and things like that to come out here. Was it forestry that kind of drove most of that?
I think so. At the time, mind you, I was 5 or 6 years old at the time, and so I mean, where we lived, we were on the outskirts of town, and that was right by Pine Center Mall.
Wow.
So there was nothing really south or west of us. So, I used to get on my motorbike when I was a young teenager and out the backyard and up Cranbrook Hill.
Wow.
So,
it's crazy to think that. I'm part of a Facebook group called You're from Prince George When, and they had a picture the other day actually of the area, kind of like what you're talking about when Pine Center was the edge of everything. Even over by the CN Center, that whole area was nothing but forest, and to see it back then the way it was and the way it is now, man, progress. It's pretty insane to see that.
And the Pinecone subdivision there.
Yeah.
There used to be a shooting range for the artillery, I think, in the Second World War, and it was gravel pits with these huge gravel berms, stationed probably 50 yards apart, and at the bottom of Cranbrook Hill was a cement bunker.
Yeah.
That they would go in. So it was really, and the city eventually just buried it because I think it might have been a liability, but it was unreal.
I remember stories about those bunkers, actually. I had cousins that were a little bit older than me that actually lived in that area, and they talked about that. They talked about playing in the bunkers until things got a little bit sketchy, and they actually ended up having to shut everything down. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That was a part of the history, and that was not too far from Ben Ginter's. That's
right. Did you know Ben Ginter? Did you ever meet him?
No, not at all. I just saw his his picture in the newspaper and on beer cans and stuff, and didn't really know much or pay much attention to him until I got a little older, then read up a little bit of history on him.
Right, and started drinking his beer.
Yeah. Misspent youth.
Yeah, exactly. So that's your earliest memories of Prince George. And was there a lot of military action happening in the Prince George area? Do you remember when you were young?
Oh no, not at that time. That was after. Or prior to me living here, rather. So, I mean, really what it was, there was just forestry, and I went to Westwood School at the very first year it was built, and I spent the next 7 years there. So, I think that was 1969 at Westwood School, and I think it's 50 years old now, so.
Wow.
Crazy.
Wow, that is crazy. So, you got here when you were 5 years old. You went to school. Where'd you go to high school? What was your high school in Prince George?
PGSS.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, crazy school. I was a little bit of a wild child back then, and getting a little bit of trouble here and there. So, but that's the way it was. And I got out of school, and I I got a job working construction, did that for a little while, drove taxi, did some other jobs, and then I got a job in the early 80s with John Brink in a logging camp. It was called Brinktown. It was 45 miles in the bush from Curtin Lake. And
Right.
his sawmill was out there, so we went out there for the week and stayed in the camp. So that was my, my first real job. And then after that, I've been in the pulp mill almost 33 years. So
Your first real job was with John Brink, really? That's kind of crazy too.
pretty,
Actually, he was the last podcast I had, and what a story that guy had. Did you kind of get to know him during those days a little bit, or were you lower on the totem pole and he was higher up type of thing?
oh, I was lower on the totem pole, but John would come out to the camp once in a while and, say hi to the folks. And we were piling lumber on a green chain with no roof, no nothing, 12 months a year. And it was brutal work, but, it was good work. And John cared about his employees. And then, well, 3 years after working there, the mill burnt down, one night. And then he rebuilt it and then moved the mill to Port St. James. And I went to work there for a bit. So, yeah, but John has worked hard. He's been, dedicated to the community. So it's been a privilege to work for him.
Yeah, I love his story too. His story of growing up in Holland, being there during the occupation during World War II, having Canadian soldiers come in and rescue his family and his country, and him wanting to
Yeah.
come to Canada because of it, and then becoming the success story he is.
Yeah.
Like that's movie worthy stuff right there. He's a very impressive man. Um,
Well, I was just going to mention, I ran for council in 1999. I think it was 2002. John ran against Shirley Bond
Yeah.
for the
liberal.
position for the Liberal to run for an MLA. And it was really interesting because they had these tents set up where the old Dairy Queen was on 20th,
Right.
signing up members, and I was just starting to get involved with politics, but I went in Shirley's tent, I went in John's tent and talked to them. And as history turns out, Shirley won it.
Yeah.
And has been in since, but he was the first competitor back then, so that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, and he's got so many great stories. He also created the glue, which is now used as the industry standard in Canada for finger jointing in wood, and it was quite the story for him to get that too. He was using this new glue. He wanted to use this new glue because it was cheaper for him to use if he produced it himself, and he said that it was better environmentally. The industry challenged him because the industry was using another glue. That glue factory got all mad about it, and they said, "No, it's worse. So you test it, and we'll show you ours is better." His was better by some crazy percentage, and now it's the industry standard in Canada. He's very intelligent man that looks at it from all sides. Yeah, very cool.
For sure. I did a Shaw interview, I think last year, talking about the forest industry and my work with John Brink, and then I just did a documentary with. It branched off from WorkSafe BC, where part of my work and one of my pictures in the documentary was me actually talking to John Brink on his mill site, because I did a lot of work with health and safety, but just my life keeps coming back to John Brink on a number of occasions, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, really cool that he's been able to keep working in this area too. A lot of times you see people using places like Prince George as a bit of a stepping stone, where you get your groundwork done and then jump off somewhere else. It's nice to see that he's seen the value in this area and has stuck around as well. So you've been working in the mill for a long time, then. The industry is pretty important to the Prince George area. I mean, it was all that Prince George had for quite a while. And then this area did very good at putting in the university and making sure we had healthcare and making sure that mining was a thing in here. We've got the inland port as well. But still, you take mills out of Prince George, there's going to be a major hurt out there. Why is the mill sector still so important here in the Prince George area, even though we're seeing forestry on the decline?
Well, the pulp mill, they say for every one pulp mill job, there's about 5 jobs created in the community. And then my mill, for example, has over 100 chip trucks come in a day. Yeah. You have pressure cleaning companies, water delivery. The people that work in the pulp mill make decent money. They buy, their goods and services and toys in the community. So really, when I started in the mill, we were about 850 people, I think, in the union, and now we're down to a little over 400.
Wow.
So it's through automation, technology, everything else. We've lost it. My department used to have 11 or 12 people. Now we can run with 5.
Unreal. Wow. So you've seen a split of almost 50% then, just since you've been there.
Yeah. Way less manual work, quite a bit more safety, oriented. So it's better, but that's a lot of high paying jobs. That's like $100,000 a year plus. the jobs are gone. And when they say that they could retrain forest workers and put them in something else, I don't know what they can put them in that's going to make that kind of money. So,
Well,
unless you're going to be a lawyer or doctor or something else, but
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, exactly. Um, so you're an avid outdoorsman as well. Makes sense. We live in Prince George. We've got 1,000 lakes within a 30-minute drive of our city. So if you're not an outdoors person, you might as well move. What kind of got you into being an outdoors person? Was that something your family did when you were young and you just kind of kept it up?
always went camping, right? And then as I got up my own, I had a cheap leaky boat. I had to keep fixing the leaks with a small, I think, Evinrude motor. But I just love the outdoors. And then the past 4 or 5 years, I got into doing a lot of trail camera work,
Right.
and that's been just fascinating. It's just, I had a trail camera set up near UNBC for a couple winters. I had cougar, wolf, wolverine, black bear, skunk, coyote, lynx. This is all in city limits. It's absolutely mind-boggling. And what I do is I put them on social media. I let people see them and say, "Hey, this is what Prince George is about." And
Yeah.
people love it, because especially the people that are shut in,
Yeah.
when they see my pictures and posts, they're like, "Oh, that it's like they're there." So it means a lot to them. So I was out yesterday. I was out today. Today I was out and on this road, and I found a dead calf, like a calf from a farm.
Right.
Someone just tossed it in the ditch.
No.
And the animals were, yeah, it was dead, frozen. And I didn't have a camera with me, but if there's an opportunity to put a camera up, then you'll see what kind of scavengers come around.
Yeah.
So I mean, I have, I think, 4 or 5 cameras out now, and in the summertime I have about 11 or 12.
Very cool. We're actually, you can't see it right now, but we actually have your pictures, some of your trail cam pictures up on the screen at the moment. Shots of coyotes. Just saw a shot of
Yeah,
a lynx there a moment ago, moose, bear.
yeah,
It's crazy just how many animals are in the area, and a lot of people don't seem to really realize it. They're in city limits, but you go just outside of city limits, and there's a ton out there as well. Where are some of your favorite spots to put some cameras down, or do you not want to let people know?
well, around Westlake,
Yeah.
some of the roads and trails off of Westlake. I had one down past Westlake this year, and I was really fortunate. A sow with 2 cubs had come up to my camera. She beat it up a bit, but then she's rubbing up on a tree, her back right beside my camera in full view.
Yeah.
And then when she's done, the little cub, just a young one, 3 months, 4 months old maybe, stands up against a tree and it's rubbing his back too, right? And then Global TV picked it up, the Weather Network, and it was just luck and some timing. But I do a lot of research when I put them in. I look for clearings. I look for pinch points where animals have to go through. I look at trails where there's water. So I do a number of things. And I just started a YouTube channel a little while ago with some of my videos, and I literally have probably a couple thousand videos, and
That's
it's
awesome.
amazing. It really is amazing. And it's just like finding gold or something. You go out, you never know what you're going to find, but when you pick up the card, and I just have a thing I hook into my cell phone, I could download all the pictures out in
Right.
the bush, and it's just like, wow,
Yeah.
it's amazing. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's one thing that I've really enjoyed about my new job since I left radio. I'm a liquor rep now here throughout the north, so I travel up to Fort Nelson. I also travel all the way out to Prince Rupert. Some of the things I've seen on those drives
oh
just blow my mind. So the biggest moose I've ever seen in my entire life. I wish I had been down at his level. I was kind of looking up from up on a hill down at him, but I bet you he was probably 13 feet tall with his rack and everything on top of him. Just the most
yeah,
monstrous animal I've ever seen. Another crazy one, when I was in between Terrace and Prince Rupert, there was a crazy rainstorm going on. It was early November, so things were a little hectic out there. Lightning flashing all over the place, wind blowing through the trees. And I came around the corner, and if you've ever driven that highway, the mountain is really close to the highway, and there's train tracks right beside that mountain as well. So it's a tight
yeah,
go. And I came around the corner, and this massive wolf ran across the thing in front of me. First thing I thought was werewolf, because he was so big. I was like, that can't be a wolf. That's not a coyote. Like that's some legendary monster for sure. And then I drove up and watched him
yeah.
go into the bush and go off the side. And I think I dropped about 12 f-bombs for the next few minutes as I was driving along. But it's so cool to see some of the wildlife that's just outside our back door that you just normally aren't given the opportunity to see yourself.
I know, and you catch them in their natural habitat. It's stress free. they don't know that the cameras are there, you know, from my from what I do, and it's perfect, you know.
Yeah.
So I was out yesterday, saw some nice wolf tracks, some other stuff, and I thought I'm gonna go back on Friday and set up a camera in the area. It's right at this junction of a creek.
Yep.
Perfect. It's gonna be good, you know, and take the snowmobile out in a couple weeks and check the camera card.
That's kind of fun. That's kind of fun. Yeah, just like you said, it's exactly like you're mining for gold. You're hunting, but you're not killing anything. You're just grabbing great pictures.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
So one thing with these cameras going out there, it's great to catch shots of animals we don't normally get to see, but there's something else we've been catching recently too, and that's people dumping garbage in our back roads. You've seen
Yeah,
quite a few instances of that. I've seen your posts about it. You've been great about
yeah.
letting people know when and where it's happening, so that we can try and track these things down. I've seen a couple stories where you've actually been able to track that person down, and you've showed up at their door with
Oh,
mail. Um, is what can people do to help with this? I know that there's a program with KKS Tactical right now where they're buying some game
yeah,
cams and things like that. What can people do to
yeah.
help out with this?
Well, I think you just have to observe, you know, monitor, and if you see something, I mean, you know, and Steve Hamilton with the Spruce City Wildlife Association and Wood Wheaton have teamed up, and they have literally, I don't know how many tons of garbage they pick up a year, but there's no consequence, you know. When bylaw services maybe talks to someone about illegal dumping, they'll say, "Well, I paid someone $5 to bring it to the dump." End of story. You know, it's actually quite lame. You know, those people that, I mean, really, what kind of people do that? They got to be ashamed of themselves. And I mean, if you go down the Beaver Forest Service Road right now between Northwood Pulp Mill and the road to Willow River, there's a boat in the ditch.
Yeah,
Someone dumped the boat there, took the trailer.
yeah,
You know, so you find all sorts of things. And trail cameras are a way that you're going to catch people, and if you got to shame them or whatever, because people don't realize they're there. And you know, if you go up by the end of North of Chaco, there's a sign up that says, as soon as you hit the gravel, under video surveillance or something,
yeah,
don't dump here. You bring it to the landfill.
yeah.
You know, and I think that's perfect. Whether or not there's a camera there or not,
Hmm.
people are going to think twice about dumping garbage, and you know, you just have to do those kinds of things. But it's a shame, and you know, we just have to try and keep on top of it.
So I got to ask you then: do you believe that the increase in illegal dumping out there is because of tipping fees at our local dump?
Well, you know what? If you think I don't, if you think that the amount of gas someone uses to drive sometimes way the hell out of town,
Yeah,
and the hassle and the risk they put themselves at, I think people are just lazy.
yeah,
You know, if you're talking about $100 for a truckload of construction waste, which sometimes happens,
hmm,
to dump, you know, is that a deterrent to some people? I guess so.
yeah,
You know, which is unfortunate. You can bring things, if you could bring everything to the dump for free, we wouldn't be able to manage it because you got to pay wages and all sorts of things like that, mechanical costs.
yeah.
But there, you know, it's a fine balance. You're not sure if you know, if you're charging too much, or we went into a thing several years ago where we charged, I think, $6 a load
Yeah, minimum. Yeah,
for just household waste and that.
yeah,
People are upset and figured it's going to lead to more dumping. I don't think it did,
right.
but you have to try and recoup some of those costs. So, you know, it's a real challenge.
For sure. I just from my side, and it's not like I'm a guy that's going to go out there and do illegal dumping, but I did get caught off guard by the tipping fee at one point. I did my roof on my house, so I budgeted everything
Yeah,
out, $3,500. We took and most of that's heavy because it's that, it's that old. It's like gravel on top of tar paper type of thing. So it's almost
yeah,
cement. So we tossed it out there. They weigh it, and then you don't even know what the cost is. On my way out, I had an extra $450 bill that slapped me. And I
yeah,
sat there and argued with them a bit. And I said, okay, well, there was somebody in behind me that had siding in a bigger trailer. What did you charge him? And they said, well,
yeah.
it's $110. And I said, well, that's crap, because it's not like it took more room for you to bury my garbage, but just because mine weighs more, I
I
got to
know.
pay 4 times the fee. And so I maybe there is a happy medium here somewhere where instead of charging weight, maybe we're charging by the square foot. I don't know how you measure that consistently,
Yeah,
but the other thing is, we most of the outdoor dumping we're seeing is not construction. It's household. It looks like
yeah.
people that are moving or something like that and had to get it all out real
Oh,
quick.
yeah,
So I'm with you on
yeah,
that side. Those people would not have to pay much to dump their stuff, and I understand that. But I do know
yeah,
that there is a section of the city that sometimes feels like maybe they're getting ripped off. with the system the
Oh,
way it is now.
you'll yeah, you'll always find that, and I think um, the the tipping fees. Sometimes I think, especially with the household waste, and we talked about this at council several months ago because the regional district was there, and they're the ones that run the landfill, not the city.
Right.
We turned it over to them a long time ago. They run it, they set the rates. We have several councillors in Mayor Hall in there, which control a lot of the votes in that.
Right.
But they tell us that it's about cost recovery and things like that. But I just, sometimes it is challenging to listen to someone that's redoing their deck. Might spend $1,000 on the deck with the wood and stuff, and then next thing you know, they're going to pay $200. But a lot of people, like you say, they don't budget it in there. They're not aware.
Yep.
So a big part of it is the educational campaign, and we're working with the home builders and a bunch of other groups to get the message out. But when it's just the individual person going there, they're usually caught off guard.
Well, and that's the problem. If there was a way for me to calculate what that cost would be, but there is no way. There's no way at all. You show up and
No.
you weigh on their scales, and then it's a complete surprise. So if there was a way for me to go, well, I've got a trailer that's this wide and it's this big and it's this many square
Yeah.
feet, that's going to cost me $200. Budget it. Tick, done.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Great. On it.
Yeah.
But that is a good point that it's run by regional district. So who's in charge of regional district then? Where do they get their money from?
Oh, well, that's been a real sore spot of mine. The
Uh-oh.
city funds about 60 something percent to the regional district.
Okay.
So about $7 million a year of city of Prince George taxpayers' money goes directly to the regional district to fund their operation. They contribute a little bit of money to, I think, Exploration Place and the art gallery.
Right.
But it's not equitable because the people in the regional district don't pay for our fire services. They don't pay for our RCMP. They don't pay to drive on our roads. They don't pay for really any of the civic facilities. And we've talked at council before. Do we need a 2-tier system for rates?
Right.
So, for example, when you go to the pool, someone might about 60% is subsidized.
Right.
So, city of Prince George person's going there paying $10, and someone else is going to pay $10, but the city of Prince George person's also paying, the $6 on their property taxes.
Right.
So, the regional districts were created a long time ago, I think, to create some sort of equity and someone to represent them. But because we're the major contributor to the regional district, we have weighted votes. So Councillor Krause, Ramsey, and McConaughey each have 4 votes.
Right.
And Mayor Hall has 5.
Okay.
So if we wanted to, we can control all the financial things at the regional district. But, it quite often doesn't happen that way. And the regional districts, in my opinion, quite loosely structured. You get someone from McBride, Mackenzie, and all that to sit on the regional district. But a lot of money is going from the city of Prince George, outside of town or to the regional district. And that's a challenge.
Yeah.
And we also contribute to the hospital.
Right. Right.
Regional district hospital funds about $6 million, I think.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, yeah, now I know the regional district is also in charge of volunteer fire halls. I used to be a volunteer fire member at a Red Rock Fire Hall, and that's who we dealt with on a regular basis when it came to funding, when it came to our trucks, when it came to equipment and things like that, too. Is it maybe time to take a look at just how the regional district runs and take away some of the things that they're involved in and just let them take care of things like fire halls? Is this system no longer working?
Well, I think it works, but once you give them money, you fund a lot of things, they control pretty well as much as you. There's absolutely no way that you would be able to really recapture any of that ground.
Right.
And I think for the most part, it works quite well.
Yeah.
But I work with a guy who just loves to bug me about the regional district taxes he pays. Beautiful home out there. Half the amount of taxes is idea.
Yeah. That's why my parents moved out of town. Yeah, because the tax breaks were ridiculous. Plus, you're not paying that huge fee for your garbage and for your sewer and stuff as well. Now that means that you now have to take care of your own garbage. But let me tell you, my parents are paying a minimum fee compared to what I'm paying here in town for garbage and sewer.
Plus, the people in the regional district get a punch card, and I think they get 40 or 50 free visits to the dump,
Yep.
dump their stuff.
Yeah,
So,
which is another
so
sticking point for a lot of us that are like, why am I paying $200 when this guy gets a free card? But yeah, okay. I mean,
yeah,
it's really hard to make these systems work for everybody all the time, but you know, that's our job, I guess, at the end of the day, is just to try and find some balance here. So city council. You started in city council in 1999, you said?
so I ran for the first time in
Ran.
1999.
Right.
I placed 13th out of 23. The top 8 people got in.
Right.
But in 2002, I wasn't going to run again, but a good friend of mine says, you know what? You probably always wonder, you know, if you would have got in, right? So I ended up knocking on probably 1,500, 1,800, 2,000 doors. I spent 3 weeks knocking on doors.
Yeah.
Because Dick Harris always told me, if you want to be successful, press the flesh.
Yeah.
But you know, that year in 2002, I got the 8th and final spot. And actually at the time, Gord Layton and Bruce Strachan were on council.
Right.
And both of them got bumped off.
Oh wow, yeah.
So,
I worked for Gord
yeah.
Layton. He was my first general manager in radio. And Bruce Strachan, he used to run a talk show here in town on CJCI, didn't he?
Yeah, yeah, and then he was our MLA, I think, for a while, but he's been around, and then he ended up going on council. But yeah, I got in, and it's been 17 or 18 years now.
Wow.
I think a third of my life, really. That's a long time.
No doubt, especially in politics in one spot. Normally, like I said, you use a spot like this as sort of a jumping stone. Why did you stay in Prince George? Why didn't you decide to head on out?
I mean, I love the community. I got family here. You know, if you look at the workload of an MLA or anybody else,
Yeah.
they're on the plane Sunday night usually. They're not back to the weekend. I just thought, you know, and the other thing about other levels of politics, you can't say what you think because it's a party system. I would have been kicked out of out of the caucus right away if I was fortunate enough to get in. But I thought, you know what, local government's the best. I can be autonomous. I can say what I want, and you know, I think that's so important because I think people are they're muzzled today. They can't say things. And it's too bad because people want you in there saying what you think and representing their interests. So, you know, that's been my sort of theme the whole time.
That's one of my sticking points, especially in the last 5 years here, and my last couple of years in radio and right up to today, is this, and I'm going to use it. I'm going to use the term. I hate it, but I'm going to use it. Cancel culture. And what people do is when they hear something they don't like, they go, la, 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 la. No, don't say it to me. I don't want to hear it. That is no way to attack a bad idea. The only way to attack bad speech is better speech. So it's not about shutting people up that you disagree with or shutting people up that have a different opinion than you do. It's really about just coming up with a better way of saying it and making more people understand that your way might be the better way. And to do that, unfortunately, what people also have to do is be able to change their thoughts, beliefs, and morals on the spot. And that's a hard thing to do because a lot of people kind of tie their identity to their thoughts, beliefs, and everything else. So, yeah, I'm with you on that side, and I think that's smart. You stayed in a place where you knew you could affect the most change at the end of the day.
Yeah, and you know, you stay in town and you're not traveling around, so I think it's good. I have the best of both worlds. I work at the pulp mill. I get tons of time off. I do the city council job sort of part time. Like it's perfect, and you know, people have said, "Why don't you run for mayor and stuff?" And I've always said, you know what? Why would I want to do that? Why would I want to have to go down to City Hall for 5 days a week, go to events all weekend, evenings? Me, I can go down to City Hall maybe once a week, do some other events, and you know, in between, do email, social media stuff, which I do a lot of.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't want to do that full time. It would be way too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when you're the mayor, you have a different role. You have to maybe not so much compromise more, but you have to be working really well with administration and council. So you're sort of caught in the middle where me, I'm on council and that's perfect.
Yeah.
I represent the interests of the people, not administration for the most part.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. No, solid spot to be. So now you've been a counselor, like you said, for a very long time, 18 years, 19 years now. You've seen some ups, you've seen some downs. What do you think is your favorite moment as a counselor so far? What are you most proud of?
Oh, geez. You know, I went through some pretty tough times about 12 years ago, and it's because I disclosed something I shouldn't have disclosed. There was a court case and everything, you know, and I had a lady that, and I raised about $15,000 in the community from my legal case, right?
Yep.
Because it was a violation of the Privacy Act. And there was a lady that come up to me in Walmart one day, and she gave me a loony or toonie, and she said, you know, you go get those bastards. You know, excuse my language. This lady was probably close to 80. And so what really, you know, it wasn't the best moment of my life, but it was like, wow, people really support me, right? And that was one of those times. But you know, it's a special events. I went to a lady, her name was Nell Glass, her 100th birthday at Gateway Lodge a couple months
Yes.
ago.
Yep.
And you know, that was incredible. So there's not necessarily any big speeches, you know, dramatic moments. It's just, you know, how you interact with people and just the rewards of being able to, you know, pick up. Like I talked to someone last night about sewer rates and stuff in North and Chaco subdivision, right? And you get off the phone, you think, man, you know, that felt good to talk to them. So it's a whole bunch of these little victories and little things that go on that I think that sort of accumulate and, you know, make the job worthwhile. So.
Gotcha. Okay, let's go to the other side. What's the worst part of the job?
Oh, geez. The bureaucracy sometimes at City Hall,
Yeah.
you know, and people don't realize it. So, for example, when we have a council meeting on a Monday night, we get the agenda, which is published 5 o'clock the Wednesday before, but we get the agenda the same time the public does.
Right.
So when we got a report back a little while ago, we can't really do a lot of homework on it when the parkade costs come in at, you know, so many millions in overruns. It was just, you know, I just felt so betrayed, and I thought, so, you know, it's a bureaucracy is sort of being kept on the outside loop of a lot of the information, you know, and I've never been one that's been like tight with administration and, you know, going a days off or and chat with them and find out what's coming up. So that's a challenge, is trying to stay on top of the limited information you get. And then a lot of times you have to pry the information out of administration, you know, at a public meeting, and you want to try and do it tactfully.
Yeah.
But so, you know, that's the biggest challenge is, and we take a beating over a lot of things, but I think what people realize, there's so much that's outside of our control. You know, the distribution of administration or information. We got a thing coming up where there's going to be some information coming out next week, and it's pretty important. And I thought, well, why the hell couldn't we just get it out last week? Put someone on the job, get it out. So information, you know, sometimes it's slow to come out, and that's probably one of the most frustrating things in my job.
Well, and you know, that's something that I've been trying to work on online a little bit too, because I follow. There's a few Facebook pages out there of people that are pretty angry with overspends and taxes and all that type of thing, rightfully so. And I follow it because I'm a resident as well, and I'm also angry about some of those things. But the thing that I see on those pages most often is people getting angry and then spouting off angrily with their solutions. And 9 times out of 10, those solutions don't work in the system that we currently have in power. And so what I try to do is talk to these people and say, okay, like, I hear what you're saying. I understand why you're angry. You know, as an example, the other day I was online and someone went on there and said, well, before they fill that city manager position, they sure have some stuff to clean up down below. And I went on and I said, I hear you. They totally do. You're right. But it's the city manager that does that cleaning. Like, the city manager works with City Hall, and then the city manager manages this side of things to run city, you know, the city works itself. City Hall are the guys that are making the decisions over here and taking their info from these people. So you have to understand the system before we attack it. A lot of times people get angry at you because they just want you to be tribal and jump on their side and say, yeah, screw the city. But I find that that's really important, that people need to understand the machine that they're fighting against, so that we can be effective and come up with proper ideas to fix this thing as well. So on that side of things, can you sort of explain how the relationship between council and City Hall works, sort of from a base level, just to a guy like me that doesn't totally get it?
Yeah. Well, under the community charter, I mean, local governments have a structure, right? And the only employee that city council has is the city manager.
Right.
That is the only employee that reports to us.
Right.
So, you know, we could say to the city manager, you know, we want you to get rid of so-and-so and so-and-so, but then we're micromanaging him or her doing their job, which is makes their job even tougher. But, you know, so that it kind of limits our role. But, you know, the city manager could sure know and get feedback from us what we think about say, a certain department. We've had a number of cost overruns, and some of us have not been too quiet about, you need to fix things in this department, or you need to do these things. But we just can't go out and say, fire someone. And I think if you started doing that and exercising that kind of control, it would be absolute chaos, because you don't want to necessarily give, in this case, 9 politicians the ability, with different personalities, backgrounds, motives, whatever, the ability to start punting staff.
Yeah.
Because staff wouldn't know where they stood on any day.
Yeah.
And it really undermine things. So you just have to make sure that you have a mayor, a city manager that work well together as far as communication, and that the mayor gets back to you and gives you guys, council a heads up on things that are coming, some pitfalls and stuff like that. So, it's an interesting relationship, but that's I guess, I don't know if you call it key to success, but that's one of the ways that local government, works. Same as regional district. You have a CAO, and the board there has reports from the CAO. That's it.
Right.
And they have that relationship as well.
Well, and yeah, I mean, you guys can't just be going in and start firing people left, right, and center, because your perception of what's going on could be completely wrong. It's not like you're working day by day with these people that are down below either. You have to have a manager that is tied tightly to them, that makes those decisions with recommendations from above. So that's how the system works, and that's kind of how it goes down. Now, if somebody has, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, but I've done some stuff that's non-traditional to affect change. Now, several years ago, when the free press was in circulation, I was told by administration, that all the equipment's out, all the snow removal equipment was out, and I was thinking, bullshit.
I remember that.
Excuse the language. So what I did is I went and took pictures of the graders and loaders at the city yard sitting there.
Yep.
And that went viral, and oh my God, did I take flack. But you know what? It sort of brought it to a head that we weren't utilizing our equipment properly and maybe maintaining it properly. And I took a beating internally at City Hall over that, but you have to do that. And other things on social media, if I see something coming down the pipe, I'll insert myself in a neighborhood Facebook page and say, hey, contact me, or we could have done better or whatever. So I try and influence things in a different way instead of just you need public pressure. And with social media now, there is such an incredible opportunity to really force government, if you will, to make moves and do things, because Prince George Citizen isn't around anymore. You don't have 8 or 10,000 papers in circulation. A lot of the older folks, and I'm getting older now, who used to read it all the time. Those are the folks that really got out and voted. So there's been this big change. So social media is a huge thing, and I think that's part of what, why I fare well sometimes, is because I do a lot of that. But you can't just say, okay, administration says this, okay, and do nothing. You do have a lot of power when the community's behind you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And actually, on that topic, I have something. I have a concern that I'll bring up with you right now, as a matter of fact. Like yourself, I'm an avid outdoorsman too. I take my dogs out for hikes all the time. I go camping a lot in the area. I love getting out in the Prince George area, and especially up in the high points looking down over the rivers and stuff. We've got some amazing views out here. One spot that I absolutely love hiking at is LC Gun Park. And over the past 5 years, I've seen that get degraded by a city operation that's going in behind it. Now, there was an old transfer station in behind LC Gun Park years ago that got shut down long time ago. And then that place was empty. Now, over the past probably about 4 years or so, I've seen that that open area get expanded. And then about 3 years ago, they started digging a hole. Now, what I think they were doing was pulling gravel out of it and using gravel for putting on the roads and things like that throughout the winter. Fine, wonderful, whatever. Then they started taking snow during the winter time and pushing snow into this hole. I didn't think much about it at the time. But now over the past few years, the hole's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger every year. Now it's to the point where the hole is probably about 300 feet from the edge of the cut banks. Now, if we keep making this hole bigger and we keep dumping snow and water into this hole and it melts, where's it going to go? It's going to go straight to the river. It's going to blow out the side of that bank. We're going to lose LC Gun Park. We're going to get sued by BC Rail and CN Rail when we destroy their infrastructure there as well. And all because we didn't do our foresight. We didn't look forward into this project either. Have you seen it yourself?
No, I haven't. I've been to the entrance of LC Gun Park, but I haven't actually walked through there for probably 10 years.
Right.
So, what I would normally tell someone with that is here's the city's email address, 311 at princegeorge.ca. Here's my email address for the city, CC me.
Yep.
And send it into the city and create a paper trail.
Yep.
And make it, if administration's not aware of it, and they should be, that's how you get things started. You just get the emails going, because what happens is the administration is not only going to email the person back that authored the email or whatever, they're going to CC us on council generally.
Right.
So then it keeps us in the loop, because we have so many irons in the fire that it's hard to keep track of anything. And I rely on people in the community to say, hey, what the hell are you guys doing here?
Yeah.
We need some help with this. Modernity Trails, for example, talked to some residents down there a couple of years ago, because at the bottom of the trail, narrow little road, I think it's before they made the parking lot a little bit bigger, everybody was pulling in there.
Yeah.
And it was creating an issue. If you wanted to get a fire truck in there, you'd have a hell of a time, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of any of that till the residents contacted me. I don't think it's been fully resolved yet, but I would never have probably heard that. So, I always say get a hold of somebody on council. I will follow up. But email the city, and they'll get back to you one way or the other.
Gotcha. Now, there's another way that people can actually get a letter read right in a council meeting as well, and that's with an email address. I believe it's mayor and council at princegeorge.ca. Is if someone has a major concern, is that another great way for them to get a hold of you guys and make sure everybody's aware?
Yeah, and what it does is sends an email to all 9 of us on council, including Mayor Hall at once.
Yep. So,
and each councilor has a different perspective, different background. So, one councilor I talked to today is dealing with the same people I am in North of Chaco, where a vicious dog it took out a little Yorkie.
Yeah.
Also bit the owner. So, we're trying to get involved with them and the administration. So, but the people get a hold of us, one way, Facebook messaging, whatever, to let us know what's going on, and that's how things get started.
Great. Okay, good to know. I actually, we're getting pretty close to the end here. I just kind of want to ask you a couple of things. What do you think is the biggest upcoming project for the city that's probably the most positive in your eyes right now?
Well, I mean, we have the pool, coming in. That's supposed to be on budget so far. I mean, that's a big thing for the downtown. Yep. We've had a lot of development downtown, which is great. We have to deal with a number of these social issues. So, and we've also had a lot of new hotel rooms added. People think, well, we have one of the best or above average occupancy rates for hotels in Prince George. Yeah. We're going to be able to attract some major events, which are going to drop millions of dollars into our community. So it's just another way to diversify the economy, and sporting teams and our educational. I think you mentioned it's UNDC and CNC. Yeah. And then you have the foreign student program. Right. Stay-at-home program, which is another huge economic boost. So there's a whole bunch of things, but I think, we really have to watch our spending, and we really have to be more accountable to people and how we report out what's going on at the city.
Yeah, for sure. And I know we're in the middle of some of that right now. In fact, I've been very impressed with a couple of the young guns on city council here. I watched the council on Monday, and I saw Corey Ramsey take city admin to task in a big way. She went through all those numbers, and she put down a timeline that was pretty eye-opening. Not only did city admin screw up the budgets on these things, but they hid a lot of that info from you guys for over a year's worth of time. It's good to see, people like Kyle Sampson and Corey Ramsey coming up. How have they affected city council from that ground level?
Oh, you know what? With Corey Ramsey, Kyle Sampson, and Terry McConaughey, without that core group, I don't believe you'd see any administrative changes at City Hall. I don't, it would just be maybe me speaking out. So sort of taking the pressure off me, and Corey the other night just dismantled, administration's timeline. And I was like, wow, that's what people, I don't think she gets enough name recognition for that. And Terry McConaughey's a fighter. If there's something going on, she'll say that, Mayor Hall, I want to talk to you, and I want to talk to the city manager. Yeah. And Kyle's very vocal and very smart. So you know what? Susan Scott is in there too.
Yeah.
But there's this group now that you just you want to take us on, go for it, because we're representing the best interest that we think the community wants, and it is so refreshing, because when I went into this last term that I'm on now, I thought this is my last term, and then I don't know what's going to happen in a couple of years, but it's so refreshing to have these people come in that are they're incredible now. They're just going to be dynamite in the years to come. So it's amazing, and they've you don't mess with them, really
Yeah.
you don't, because they do their homework and they're willing to speak out, and that's what people want.
Yeah, and I think it's important that we start getting people that grew up during the social media age into
Yeah,
politics and having a bigger voice, because there's a different perspective that came with the social media age. Before social media, you knew what you knew, and you knew what you knew from the people you talked to. You didn't, I mean, sure, we got
yeah,
some info from the news and things like that, but you didn't get perspectives from the news. You had skewed facts that
yeah,
came in. Social media has really forced us to look at not only different countries, but different ways of thinking, different perspectives, different religions, different. So it's I think it's
yeah,
very important to have these people in there that have grown up with a larger perspective than some of the people that
yeah,
were in, learned most of their facts before social media came along. So I think it's awesome that we have a couple of
yeah,
people that are right in the middle of that as well. So you said you're not really interested
yeah.
in being the next. No, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, no, go ahead there. Sorry.
Okay, so you're not, you said you weren't really interested in being the next mayor of Prince George, but if you're not going to be the next mayor, is it possible that you're going to go for another term?
I would say the chances are better of me running again than not. But if I didn't, I know we'd be in good hands, and I don't really want the full-time job of doing that. So I'm going to be retiring from the pulp mill in 2.5 years.
Yep.
Beautiful. If I'm on council or not, I'm going to have basically every day of my life, at least during the daytime, I'm free to do what I want. So I'll have a pension coming in, and got a healthy family and everything. So that's really all I want. And I don't want to complicate it much more. So,
Yeah.
but I also wanted to say, Matt, it's good to see yourself and some other people that grew up in radio and even some of the print news um, going in a different direction. Because I've always thought, and I've told you that before, that the media folks, they don't get paid enough. They're not, they're not looked after well enough, and you don't blame them. And like I said before, Erin Collins, it was at, I think, CJCI at the time. She went to Northern Health. There's been a number, including yourself, that have made a change, because you guys bring a skill set that I think is just as valuable outside, the media with what you do. And I think that's so important. And really, some of the traditional media, I don't think can afford to pay, because of advertising revenue and everything else. So they're getting these kids, especially in Prince George, they come up for a couple of years, they move, and it try moving up, and it's tough. But you guys need to be compensated well for what you do. So I'm glad you've broken the mold as well, and you're doing something else.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I was really depressed when I left radio because I no longer felt like I was able to communicate the way I wanted to. I wasn't able to get to the bottom of things. I can't remember what the issue was, but there was a city issue that came up while I was working at my last job. And I went to the newsroom and told them about it. And I had actually worked up a bit where I was going to talk about this thing. Don't remember what it was, doesn't matter. I was
Yeah.
told at that time that I wasn't allowed to do that bit. And when I asked why, they said because the city of Prince George had a $70,000 advertising budget with us that year. And they
Yeah.
thought that it might piss
Yeah.
somebody off, and then they might pull the budget. And I said, well, I didn't. I mean, if you look at my bid, I said, you guys can read it word for word. There's nothing wrong with this. They can't sue us. I'm not
Yeah.
defaming anybody. I'm throwing out facts, and I made it kind
Yeah.
of funny too. And they said, yeah, no, it's 70 grand. We just can't do it. And I was really mad at the radio
Yeah.
station, but I had to leave the industry and look back at that situation and go, they were screwed. They didn't have enough money to give anybody a raise. They didn't have money for equipment. They didn't have money for anything. So when I came forward, it didn't matter how good the bit was. It was life or
Yeah.
death for them. So media's in a bad spot. And the good thing is you don't need multi-million dollars to be media anymore. You know, you and I can sit here on a on
No.
a on a Facebook meeting and you know, probably get to some facts that media wouldn't have time or the ability to get to. So
Yeah.
hey, thank you very
Yeah, for
much.
sure.
Thank you very much for being
My pleasure.
available and for coming on. I really appreciate that. Both Kyle Sampson and Corey Ramsey have both agreed to be my next two guests. So we're going to continue down the line here and get some more stories from you guys
Cool.
and counselors. And I would love to have you on again sometime in the near future, and we'll just kind of do an update.
Yeah. Anytime, Matt.
Awesome. Thank you very much. This is Brian Skakun on Matt Talks Back right here on YouTube. And very soon we're going to be on all Spotify and all other spots where you can get your podcasts as well. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks.